right. So thanks again for being with us for this special, Charts by TRADEway feature where we're going to talk about everything that we've added into the platform last year. And it is quite a bit. And so I wanted to bring, Rance, Steve, Lori, our whole team on board here to kind of share with us everything that has been added in, because there's a lot of really good things that we've added in here. But yeah, let me just go ahead and start out real quick with saying just a couple housekeeping items. We got the chat box. If you guys want to say hello, say good morning, tell us where you're from. I see, Beverly from Georgia, Nelson from Sherman, Texas, Doris from Dallas, Ray from Frisco. I mean, it goes on and on. We're from all over the country. Love it. Love seeing that, guys. So thank you so much. Also, as we're going through on today, feel free to ask questions. The Q&A is going to be the best place for that. As you can see from the chat, it is rolling pretty quickly. If you throw a question in the chat, we're going to miss it. I almost promise you that. So go ahead and throw those questions in the Q&A and we can get those answered for you. So with that, I just want to introduce Rance, Lori, and Steve. I want to thank them for being on. I want to thank them for their support. Guys, there is so much work that they do in the background that is not really seen by others. I have the privilege of being in a seat where I see a lot of the work that they do for us in keeping Charts by TRADEway going and adding new features that they've done. And guys, we wouldn't have Charts by TRADEway, and we would have, a lot of other, problems if we didn't have Rance, Steve, and Lori. So I can tell you how much that they help us, and I'm very thankful for that. And so I just want to thank them publicly here as well. Like I said before, we're going to be looking at some of the new features that Rance and his team have added this last year. And these are really big ones. And Rance, I hope you're okay with me sharing this, but I found it very interesting that you said even with the platform that you created and the features you've added in here have allowed you to become a better trader even. And guys, Rance has been trading since the 90s. I mean, he is an absolute pro at this. His knowledge is through the roof, and his platform helped him to become a better trader. So what do you think it could do for you if used the proper way? And so I'm excited for Rance to be on today to help show us how we can use some of these new features that were created last year in helping our workflow. So, you know what? I think I'm just going to stop talking because I want to hear from Rance now. So I'm just going to throw it over to Rance. Thank you so much. And I think you should be able to share screen too by now.
Yes, yep. I'm there. Yep.
Yeah.
So really quick before I share the screen, I just want to make a couple comments here. First of all, there's a whole team of people behind this. Steve and Lori are the front line. They're the ones a lot of times you'll be communicating with. Lori runs our support team. She organizes the webinars and does all that to make sure you get the most out of it. But behind that, there's a team of developers that also make this happen. And I have to say, one of the things I've had the privilege of being able to do over the last now decade of time here is what do I need to improve my trading? I get to go build it. There's not a lot of people that have the capability of doing that and have that luxury. But the thing about that's important, and it's not just me, it's a team of us that we'll talk about features and things we want. And the fact that we are traders that are doing this really helps bring it to light. And I also just want to mention something else here about David. I appreciate the accolades you give us, but I have to say that David is your advocate. He is the student's voice a lot of times in the development that's going on and prioritizing what are the next things we want to bring forward and all that. And we launched just over a year ago with Charts by TRADEway, and we haven't been just sitting back. We've been doing a lot in the last year, and I look forward to sharing some of that with you here today. So with that, let me get into the platform itself and share a couple things on here for today. So now, as we do this today, if you do have any questions, as Dave mentioned, the chat's a great way for group chat, group discussion comments. But if you do have questions, use that Q&A panel, and we have David, Steve, and Lori all here to be able to help with that and make sure that your questions do get answered. So with that, let's dive into some of the new things we've added in the last year. It's not really chronological because I wanted to do this in a way that's going to really make sense for our presentation today. So I'm going to share with you these as I feel they're going to best relate or share with you what these features are. So the first one I want to mention to you is our notification center. So one of the things that we have added in the last little bit here is this notification center. So you'll notice when you come into the platform now this is on the Elite. If you have the basic, you might still have a little bit of this on it to notify you of internal communications, but this is a feature for TRADEway Elite. And if you click on this, what will happen is if you've not clicked on it before, it's going to come up and talk about activating notifications. Now, we are going to be sending you emails about certain activity on your account. And so because of that, we do require you to opt in on this in order to, meet the spam rules and all that, and make sure that you want this information, right? And what specific information you want. So when you come in, you'll see this little one up there that's indicating you have a notice, and you'll see this on here. Some of you I know have already turned these on, so this will be a refresh for you. But when you click on this to turn it on, what'll happen then, it'll come over to the notification settings page, and then there gives you some choices here. So it will automatically use your account email, and you can choose to send to that email or not. And then you also have the ability to enter in an additional email, or if you want a different email and don't want it to go to your primary account email, because that may not be one that you're checking as frequently or whatever, feel free to enter in that additional email. Now, currently, and we're going to definitely add more to this, but currently we have 3 notices that go out. The first 2 of these are upcoming events. The upcoming earnings events and upcoming dividends events. And what we will do is on Monday morning, prior to the market open, we will send you an email, and it will tell you all of the stocks broken down by account, right? So if you have real accounts or virtual accounts or multiple real accounts broken down by account, it will send you an email. Well, it's one email, but it just breaks it down by account of all of the stocks that you have that are going to be coming out with earnings this next week and which day it is. And then there's another email that will come up on dividends, and it'll tell you what stocks come up with dividends this week and what day that is as well. Now, the reason, both those are important, but if you're trading in options, especially, earnings, actually, whether it's stock or options, it doesn't matter. You care about both of these, because if it's dividend, you get the dividend. If you own the stock, if it's options, there are risks of early exercise assignments, or actually early assignment. Your exercise is up to you, but you could be assigned a position if there's a dividend coming up, because let's say that, I have a call option, you sold me that call option, right? So you might be in a covered call, for example, and I know a dividend's coming up and I want that dividend. So I exercise my option, I get the stock, and it's pulled away from you. And then, the problem is that if you're in a spread position, that could put you in a compromised trade. So you need to know that there's an upcoming dividend, right? So we let you know what those are. And then of course, earnings. And right now we're in a little bit higher sensitivity around earnings. And so that's also an important thing. So we let you know that's happening. And then on the options expiration, it is 2 days prior to your expiration, you'll also get an email about that. So if you have options expiring this Friday, tomorrow morning, Wednesday, you would be getting those. Now, if you're trading any of the, other like a SPX that now have options that expire every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, right? So in those cases, again, it would be 2 market days. If you have something closing up on Monday, it would go out on Thursday. 2 market days prior to that expiration, you'll be notified by email. And we have this push alert that's going to be active very soon. Right now, this is grayed out, but we'll be able to send push alerts for that as well. Right now, it's going out by email. Now, there is one other thing you have to do to get these notifications, and that is that, I've turned on the notification, and these are the messages I want. However, there is also on an account level. So if I go in here to my account, Now this is my demo account on TRADEway. So I have here my virtual account, and you'll notice here it says account notifications, right? So if I need to turn that on as well, and that will give me notifications for that account. So it's only the accounts that you want, right? So if you, for example, if you're starting out, you're doing a lot of stuff on your virtual accounts to try to make money, just as if it was a real account to, build that confidence, then, you're going to want to turn it on for that. As you move from your virtual to real, and, you're really not using your virtual account for, a learning tool anymore, because you're actually doing it for real, you can come in and turn those off. So those are, you can toggle those on and off whenever you want to for that account, but then you'll start getting those notifications. And I think I can show, here, for example, now the dates on this, because this is our development system. So this is going to show weird dates from last year or whatever, but this is just to show you how this is going to look. It says upcoming earnings in your portfolio. It's going to list each portfolio you have here and show you what the symbol is and the date of that earnings. Now you'll notice this has a $ in front of it. We call them cash tags. That's because I could actually click on that and go straight to that symbol. So if I want to work down that list, this is actually kind of a mini time watch list of these upcoming ones that you can go check out real quick, right? And again, you'll know which account that is in. Right. So the really powerful new feature to help you manage your trading more effectively. And, what happens, anybody that's trading for any length of time has had it happen where they forgot about an upcoming earnings or didn't know about it or whatever. A lot of, certain brokerage accounts will tell you that you have an option expiring, but they won't necessarily tell you about upcoming earnings and dividends. And sometimes they don't even tell you about upcoming options expiration unless it's a risk to the firm, right? A risk thing. And then, but for you, for trade management, you're going to care about that. So that's one of the features we've added, the ability to have our system notify you via email about these upcoming events so that you maximize your profitability in that within this. Okay. So that is one of the new features. Next thing I want to talk about is we have really reworked the watch list capability as well. This was something that I've been working toward for a while, and we had to implement certain technology to be able to do it, and we have done that now, and we have our the ability to customize our watch list view. So by default, this is what the view always has been. That's still there. It's the default view. And then you'll also notice that there are some additional views in here. So we have already added a few views for you here. So you can see the dividend fundamental, fundamental with earnings and performance ones that we have already added in here. So, let's just look at fundamental for just a second. And, this is going to tell us things like the last earnings report, what it was, what the EPS was, the last date, the next date, and how many days away that is. How many, in this particular one, we set it up. So how many consecutive positive earnings reports has there been? And then as soon as it goes negative, we also count how many negative there have been. So if we look at this, the last 3 earnings in a row for Google have been negative. Microsoft was a positive one the last time, but before that it was negative, right? Yet we have J&J here that's basically hit their estimates the last 26 quarterly earnings in a row. So, when you talk about, consistency of delivering, that is, that's pretty strong. So this is something that, here we have Citigroup also, which is interesting because I have something else coming up on Citi in a minute I'm going to show you, where we have, again, they've been hitting their number pretty consistent as well. And then we also show you what the PE is. Now, I'm highlighting this point on here about this, but the reality is, you can set these up however you want. So if I decide that, like here's one I had set up that I wanted to show you. I call this one my trend view. And what this is showing me is, I have here my last my volume here and that, but I have here now, because I don't want, today is important. And I probably normally I would have added today on here. I didn't happen to on this particular one. I'll show you how to in a second. But I want to see what's going on with it. So I have the 7-day, 30-day, and 90-day percentage change. So if you look here, Apple's down 15% in the last 90 days, 13 in the last 30, right? But then if you look down here at, some of these here where you look at, we were talking about City, for example, because I'm going to come up to, I have something else coming up on that in a minute. I'm going to talk about. So let's just look at that. And you look at this here, it goes, okay, 90 days, it's been up 5%, 4.75, the last couple of days, up 2%. Right. So you can see a little bit of that trend. And then the other thing I did, because I just like to know this, is what are the moving averages? So I added a bunch of those. So how do you do that? What do you do here to make that happen? And if you click on the little gear there, it's going to show you all of the different categories. Now, this is the categories that we have available to us. I can open up one of these categories and look at this. Actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go create new. I'm going to start with a blank slate here. And over here, I'm going to open up the basics. And this is all the stuff about, the basics of it. So so I'm going to go in here and let's say I want to see the change from the close, both dollar and percent. Maybe I care about today's high and low. And then I've got things like, is it optionable? And I don't want to know just as optional. I want to know what type of option. So I'm going to put that on there. I could even put what industry group it's in just to have that. And then let's say my volume, I want to know what the volume is, but I also want to know what the 30-day average volume is. And you see how these are just adding down here. And so we have these broken down in technicals, right? By the way, very similar to the score, basic information, company information. Then we have technicals, right? Falls right along the score. Inner circle, what the insiders and institutions are doing. I've opened up that. I got all the institution stuff. The valuation, here's some of my key ratios that I care about. So I might want to look at maybe my forward PE, we'll add that. Looking at, so I have all, and here's my fundamentals and here's my options things as well. So I can see, what kind of volume or, what the IV is, whatever, if I'm trading a lot of option stuff. So I set this up however I want. I save that. And now let me call this, we'll call this TRADEway demo and we'll save it. And now I have that view available to me. Now, let me just share something with you. We had a lot of desire to have a customized watch list, but I'm going to tell you where as I was talking to a group of people about this, and, some people were going, hey, this is pretty cool, but, it wasn't something they were getting excited about. And I didn't understand why they weren't getting excited about it, because I thought it was really cool. And then I did something and I saw the light bulbs go off in the room. And that was, what you want to do here for your watch list is you want to set it up in a way that is based on how you're trading to get your research done faster right now. And it might be different ways of trading. So you're gonna have different views for that, right? So if I go here to my, my stock view, that's kind of general things. But then if I go here into my options side of this, what I have now is just options information, right? So if I'm trading options on, that's what I really want to look at. So here, what I have is, is it optionable? And is it, what type of option? So W means it has weekly. NW means no weekly. We had it originally as an S for standard, but people were confused. So no weekly, right? And then the liquidity, and we're going to, this is a real important thing we're talking about in just a moment, gives you the options volume, put call ratio. So you get to see what the skew is as to whether or not it's going toward calls or puts, the IV, the average IV, the IV range, and, all that. So you get to see all this stuff around options to help you make the decision before you even go into the options to start going down the chain and looking at all the stuff as whether or not this is a really good optionable stock or not. And whether or not you want to do something with that. So the best use case that we've seen for the watch for this is scenario-based information to help you get it, get your research done. Now, I did this here with options, right? So you may have certain fundamentals that you look at, and options that you look at. So build it out for how you do it, right? But what it does, and by the way, you can go as wide as you want here because it just horizontal scrolls, right? But what this does is it really lets you set up the view for what information you care about as you're doing your research to be able to get this done quicker and really make that happen, right? So in fact, actually guys, I'm going to pause the video because I have a couple comments about the screen sizing thing and all that. I'm just going to do that to help us maximize screen. But anyway, so that's a use case. So use case based watch lists are of particular value, and we want to give you the opportunity to be able to do that. So that's a new feature. Now, the way this does work is, of course, with any of these, I can go to my tile view, and I like my medium view, and I like 3 months, so I'm going to go do that. Right, so I'm looking down the list and seeing that. But what I might do is, let me just change real quick to a different watch list for just a second. Let me see, SP2. Let's see. That's a lot. So I want to try to, I thought I had a short list on here. Not so much, but what I can do here, actually, let me just share this with you because let me limit this down, right? So if I am looking at this going, hey, I want to whittle down this list. I came up with this list from somewhere, whatever. Let's say I came up from a screener, and I just threw it all in a list, right? And so what I want to do now is I want to work through this list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of everything that's under 500,000 shares traded because I want to make sure we have good liquidity. So I'm going to go click the first one, go down to the next one I want, hold down my shift key, and click the button, and bam, that just highlighted all those. I'm going to delete them. Right. So I've got that one done. Now I'm going to go, hey, I want to make sure that it has weekly options. Right. So I click on this and I find out there's a few of these here that don't have weekly. Let me go ahead and get rid of those. Right. So and I want to make sure you're not going to know what this is yet. But you're going to see it in a minute. I'm going to show you, I want ever above 80% or an 80 liquidity score in my options. And I go do that, right? So I now have limited this list down. And so now I go over here to my tile view, and I can further, do a quick view of, my technical analysis on this. And by the way, in case you're not familiar with this, there is the multi-select button here. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to go through and get rid of what I don't like. So I'm not liking that one. I'm not liking that one, right? So you see very quickly, I'm able to do some, quick analysis now and get down to kind of, the brass tacks of what I want to be able to trade. So let me get rid of, and this one's kind of stopped up there. So all right, so we're going to do that. We'll delete those. And I'm going to go back to my list one more time, and I want to look at my prices. I just want to make sure that I had prices that, I didn't want really cheap stocks in the list, right? So that's my list. I just whittled it down by using whatever fields I wanted to do, right? So a really powerful way to be able to do that. So then I decide I want to research it, right? I want to go look at it further. And to be able to do that, so what I'm going to do is my SP1, right? I'm going to go over to research dashboard. And this was something, I'm going to tell you something, this was hard to do. And David just kept hammering us on this, and we figured out a way to make it happen and got it done. And that is that if you recall in the past, what you had was your most recent 20 stocks listed here. But the most recent 20 stocks was, every time you clicked a new stock, it added to the list. But I want to do a watch list, right? I want to be able to go through my list quickly. So what did I just do? I just went through on my watch list here and whittled down, however I started, I whittled down to this is my short stack of stocks now. And so now I can come over here and I can go and choose my watch list right up here. It says recent, or here's all my personal lists. I'm going to go SP1, bam, there it is, right? So now I can go over to my chart, and I could just go very quickly down my list of stocks here and be able to do a deeper analysis on it and be able to take a look at this and see what I like. Now, the thing is, if I'm looking here and I'm saying, okay, I see this stock, this is 300 this is $315. It's probably not something I'm going to go buy stock on. It's a little bit higher price than I want. So what I can do here is right there, there's a little X. If I hover, right, a little X, bam, it's off my watch list. That quick, that easy. So it makes it so much easier to be able to go down your list, look at the information, make your choices, and get and manage your list and get down to the very few that you want to that you want to be able to actually work with and trade. Okay.
Hey, Rance.
So yes.
Hey, so this feature right here is probably our favorite feature that you've added in here. And I know, because I've had the conversations with you, that this particular feature was a lot of work in the background and took several different attempts at trying to figure out how to create this. Guys, you wouldn't think that would be difficult to just add a column on the left side for a watch list next to a chart. But when you get into the workings of the coding and everything in the background, this one was a challenge, and they rose to the challenge, and we're very thankful for that. This feature right here has been the most exciting feature that I've seen in last year. So thanks again for that.
You're very welcome. I'll tell you, it was, and we went back and forth with several just to, besides the back end design stuff on how to make this work. And, and I'll tell you, one of the things that came out of this is we were talking about it, if you hover over this, you get the prices, right? And that's kept up to date. Every time you click it, those are kept up to date. However, one of the things that I had when I was looking at recents, it's like the stuff I was looking at. So I kind of had an idea what was going on with those because I just looked at them. They're my recent ones. But what about a watch list when I bring it in? So one of the things that we added was a little up down arrow. So right now you see that ABBV is down $1.80, right? So I said, I don't know how much it's down necessarily till I hover, but at least I know it's down. Avid is up, right? So we added this to make that a little bit easier as well. And then one of the other things that happened, and I saw this actually come up in a question that about like, how do I get to the list or whatever? So let me just share with you. One question was, can I create a watch list from here? The answer is no, you can't create a watch list from here. You have to go over here to create the list. However, let's say that I'm over here on my, let's see, do I have any? I don't even know if I don't have an active screener yet. So I do. Yeah. So let's just say I'm in here and I decide I want to look at this stock, right? This is BMY. I click on it and you'll notice when you come over now, you're back in recents, right? Because it wasn't on your watch list. It wasn't on that SP1 watch list. So it's going to switch it over to recents because it wasn't on that list. However, you're looking at this, you're going, hey, I want this on my SP1 list. So all you have to do that, and you'll see this in a bunch of places throughout the system, wherever you see this little page with a folded corner and the arrow, that is the ability to send to watch list. So if I say, I want BMY on that watch list, I click this, you're going to see SP1 here. Bam, I do that, and it's now been added to that. So now, sorry, we have one of our coworkers here offering an opinion. Anyway, so we have here's my recent. I'm going to go back to my SP1, and bam, there's Bristol Myers right there. So, and by the way, if I'm on and this is another thing that actually, one of the things I really wanted to do today was talk about workflow design a little bit as well. And, there's things that we do in the platform to help with workflow. One of them, I'm going to digress for just a second. One of them, actually, I'm going to give you two real quick. One of them, the first one is our order of these major icons, right? So I have the home, what's going on in the market, right? Market conditions, what's going on with my stocks, new opportunities I want to find, research and trade those, and then manage your portfolios, right? So it's in order for a reason, right? Same thing here with the score, from technical analysis, which is going to be your quickest indication, right? Thing you're going to act on, to inner circle, what's going on with the institutions and insiders, to what the valuation is. Valuation's looking at current price information compared to fundamentals, right? And what is it over, undervalued, so on. And then the final one, these are fundamentals that comes out quarterly. Again, it's in order of importance or order of speed of impact, right? So we do a lot of things to help with that workflow. So one of them that you can do is you could start out with, let's say, a screener or a scan. You throw those all into a watch list, and then you go down this watch list. And at the end of the day, I expect this watch list to be empty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it, and I don't have a lot of bucket. I spend most of my time on dev. So I've got a whole bunch of watch list over here on certain things that I do, but I wanted to show it to you on the TRADEway Live product. So because I'm always developing, right? So we're testing and doing all that. So I spend most of my time there. But let's just say I've got these SP1. At the end of the day, I want SP1 to be empty. And I'm going to put it in my other watch list. So if I've got something that's options focused or fundamental focused, or let's say I have one that I'm doing for a lot of covered call stuff, and I might care about both fundamentals and options and so on. So I just keep throwing them into those different buckets. And then once I throw it into that bucket, I can delete it from my list here. And if I decide I don't want it one of the buckets because I don't like it, I delete it from my list here. So at the end of the day, list is empty. And you just took what you started out with in a scan or a screener or something like that, and whittled down and then put them in the right buckets, and then you go trade, right? So that's one of the use cases here. And the fact that you can delete off this list by simply clicking the button there. I can add to any one of my watch lists by clicking on the little page icon there. You'll also notice that if I go into my screener for a second, you'll see it on the little page icon there as well. Actually, it's also on your watch list as well. So if I wanted to come in here and highlight several of these and send these all over to a particular page, to a particular list, I can do that too. So it's all designed around helping you be able to manage. By the way, if you're not familiar with that, just like any other system, on Mac, it's Command, and on PC, it's Control, I believe, right? I keep forgetting Control or Alt. If you want to highlight multiple rows, David, if you know which one it is there, if you speak up for a second, that'd be great. I think it's.
I'm not entirely sure, honestly.
Okay.
I always click the long way, but I think I just learned something here new. So yeah.
Yep. So, and then the other one too, if you're not familiar with that, or if you're on a touch device, you always have the ability to go multi-select and then just do it like that. It'll work, right? So you can do that as well. And so it just gives you a way to be able to manage it better. And I'm going to tell you something. When they came to us and said, talk to the developers about, what's next. And they did this. And by the way, this was, what's the next things we're going to work on? This was on the list 3 times before it actually got delivered because of all the challenges with making it happen, but we got it done. There it is. And, but I'm going to tell you, this was one, you mentioned that it's one of your favorites, David, that's come out. I almost hate to admit this because, why didn't I get it in sooner? But me too. It's like, I didn't realize how valuable it was in my ability to trade manage. And if we just take these 2 things, the watch list customization and the ability to see watch list from your research, those 2 things have reduced my time to finding new trades by a third to half. Like, no joke. It's huge impact on being able to do that. So
that is really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I'm going to tell you, it's reduced my time. And I'm going to tell you what we did before was you go up and you'd highlight the first one, you highlight the last one, you send them over to research, but they're still on my list. Like, I can't manage my list from research, right? Now you can. Now you can. And what was also happening was we had noticed that people's lists were just going and going and growing, because what would happen is they just leave stuff on the list because it wasn't so easy to manage it by literally just coming over here and clicking the X and it's gone off that list, right? So really cool way to be able to do that. And again, your recents are always there. And if you click on a stock that's not on your watch list from somewhere else, it's going to come into recents. There you go. So that's it. So by the way, one question I did say, since we're on the chart page, one question I did see come up, they were saying that below their chart, there's all this blank space, about a third of it below that. So what this is, if you hover on the chart, this is one of those, it's not quite so obvious. But if you hover on the chart, you'll notice on the upper part of the chart, you'll notice a little arrow tag here. Right. You can grab that tag and you can drag that to however you want. So for example, if you like the volume on the top and you want to get rid of volume on the bottom and then stretch your chart down there, you've got the ability to do that. The majority of what we do on the system is all cloud-based, so it's stored on the cloud. However, this is one particular feature that is stored local. And the reason for that is that it will be for that particular system, right? So if you're on a desktop at work and a notebook at home, those are two different screen sizes, or even like you're on a tablet, right? So it's for whichever device, it's remembered per device, and you can set that and it will remember it for that device. So a nice little extra piece there. So there's some other things I want to talk about on the charting, but you know what, David, I know in our lineup there I had charting down a couple, but just because of the flow here, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a couple of the other features here on the charts.
Yeah, go for it.
And just because I think, since we're kind of into this part, let's do that. So one of the things that we added was the ability. I'm going to go back to my default profile for a moment just to make. We have all the different. Let me get my volume back invisible. Right. We have all these different profiles here. By the way, something else that was also added, I actually forgot, this was added a while back, but I forgot to have it on the list. So one of the things we did here was we had the default profile, and then you could add your own profiles. We have also added now the ability for instructors to add some as well. So the coaches can add some that everybody can see. So for example, my MACD stochastics one here, we'll click on that one and you'll see again, I've got these in here and it also has an extended chart and so on. So we've added that capability in here where, those of us at TRADEway can create this, and it's dynamic, right? So if I'm teaching a class and make a change to this, immediately everybody in that session would be able to see those changes in that. So the top ones up here above the line are ones that we manage for you, and then you have your profiles down below that as well that you can obviously clearly be able to do. So then the other thing that we did was we also added a couple of things that was requested. One of these over here. So over at the top left here, you're seeing the open, high, low, and current or close price on that particular candle. They ask for a range. So you can see in this particular, today there's been a 90-cent range from the low to the high on that candle, so that you can, just be aware of what's going on. And that is dynamic. So if I go to yesterday, it was $2.41 range on that, you can see. So we have added that capability as well, so that you just makes that a little bit easier to do. One of the other things that was requested was a little bit better zooming control. And we have added that as well. And that is where now it used to be you could only horizontally zoom. And one of the challenges, and actually let's actually use one here that is specific. So if I go to the 10-day and let's go 10-day and 50-day crossovers, this particular chart's not doing it, but sometimes you'll see where these arrows will end up crunching up the chart a little bit because they have to have room to have the arrows on the screen, right? And if I don't care about that, I can zoom in on that. So what this will let us do here is now you can zoom both vertically and horizontally. So I just go and highlight the area I want to zoom into, and bam, that's it. And as soon as you have zoomed, it will have a reset zoom button up here, and you can take it back to whatever the default view was. In this case, a 6-month view with the extended and so on. So
and Rand, I'll just jump in real quick.
Yep.
That feature of zooming in and seeing the exact cross section that I want to see, I use that all the time in teaching. And so I use that frequently as I just want to zoom in and just get a real closer, clear look at exactly, watch that wick just bounce off the EMA perfectly, or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So I use this feature every day.
And it's a really, from an instructing standpoint, I found it to be really valuable. But sometimes on, like I just zoomed in on, right now we're looking at these, the blue line, red line crossover right here. I want to see it a little bit more. I can go, right into it. I can see, exactly what happened. And, because sometimes there's a lot of lines in it, right? So it does, it just helps you be able to do it. And the cool thing about it is I get right back to where I was, right? So that's a pretty handy little piece on that. And then one of the other things that came up was the desire to want to make sure I pick, we'll use Amazon. So by the way, notice something here. I'm going to type in AMZN because I want to bring up Amazon. And as soon as I click that, guess what? I'm changing the recents because that's not on my watch list. If I want it on my watch list, all I have to do is go click on this, add it to the watch list, right? So I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm not going to do that. So here we have Amazon. And one of the things that I'm going to go back to my default just because it's a little bit easier to see a couple things here. And on this, I'm going to go to my event flags and I want to show, I really want to show splits because that's the piece that I want to highlight here. And let's look at a 1 year on this. And whoops, did I save that? Events, that's it. Yep. All right. So, okay, there we go. So if you notice here, Amazon in June of last year did a 20-for-1 stock split. So one of the things that sometimes happens, in fact, actually, it kind of shows here a little bit. You have this, the run up to the split, anticipating the split happens. Sometimes you'll see a bleed off, and then you saw a gain, and then the realities of whatever was showing up and the earnings or whatever brought that back down or market. But you can see that here. Well, sometimes it's nice to be able to see an unadjusted view of that. Now, what you'll notice is if there is a split that shows up on the screen, hovering will show you the split factor, in this case, 20-to-1. But there'll be an unadjust button up at the top here. And when I click that unadjust button, what you're going to see is the unadjusted view. So if you look at this, it was trading at $2,400, let's see, the close $2,447. And the next day it split and it opened at $125, representing that 20-to-1 split. And also prior to that, the volume, which was for that one share at this price at $2,400, once it's split, you want the volume factored in to match what the split was, right? So it will, it's adjusted back to that as well. But anytime you see a split on the screen, you'll see the unadjust up here. And if you want to see the unadjusted view, we have that available to you. And I have to tell you that Dave Senior here, our patriarch, he was the one that lobbied for that one, and we got that in there for you as well. So that's one that we have here in charting now. There's also quite a few new indicators that were added, and I don't want to go through individual indicators. It would take too long. I want to mention one, however, and that is the 52-week high-low. And in this, what this will do, and the reason I want to bring this one up is this is not an indicator specific to this stock. This is a broad market indicator. And in fact, actually, it's something we've had for a long time. If you look at the market page down in the bottom left-hand corner, it shows you 52-week high-low, and you can look at it for the NASDAQ, the New York, Amex, right? And it shows you how many stocks, like for example, today there's 37 new highs, 11 new lows on the New York Stock Exchange. Well, this is kind of an important thing for the tone of the market. And so what we decided to do at David's request was we brought that in to the chart. So now if I go to my 52-week high-low indicator, there's a couple things about this. I can show only the difference, which is just so if there's 20 new highs and 5 new lows, the difference would be 15 on the high side. Right. And I only want to show the difference right now just because it has an additional value to that. And then we want to look at a trend period, and I've got this set to 3, and I'll show you what that means when I bring up the indicator. So let me bring up that indicator, and I'm actually going to bring it right up underneath the chart so we can see this. And here you can see on any given day, like for example, if I look at today, there is broad on the broad market side on the New York, there's 100 new highs, 17 new lows. So that means 83 positive, 80, the difference 83, that little bar there is going to represent 83 to the positive. Now, if I want to see, just so you can see this, if I want to see all of it, I can do that. And now what it's going to do here is it's going to show, in fact, let me just zoom in. Let me talk about that zoom feature. Let me just zoom into this. So it's going to show you what the new high and what the new low was, but then you got to kind of do the math yourself and to figure out what the trend is, especially when they're close. So if I only want to show the differences, now what that'll do is just show that. So it makes it a little bit easier to be able to read. And, you know, one of the things that I personally believe in my trading is go with the flow. You know, you don't want to bet against the, you don't want to bet on the one stock that's swimming upstream to a massive downflow in the market. And, you know, if I look at my 3-year daily for a moment, you can see here we had all of this bullish time. And then notice something happened here. And this is really interesting because you start to see some 52-week lows coming in before the market really, in this case, Amazon, before Amazon really started to collapse. And if I switched over to Apple, you'll notice I switched to Apple, it's the exact same chart on the bottom because it's the same thing, right? But you'll look at this, Apple was still going up in this window of time, but there came a point in time where it just couldn't swim upstream against the flow of down. And it started to move, right? So this is a great way to get a macro view of what's going on in the market. And, you know, if I'm looking at tech stocks, I might want to look at the NASDAQ versus the New York and be able to see that as well. And now you'll notice a little shading area here, where I've got the red shading and the green shading, and then these white spaces in between. What that is that I said I need 3 days to determine a trend. I need 3 new highs before I'm going to get that, or 3 new lows before I'm going to call it a trend. So what you're seeing here is this is identifying a trend. So while today is up, again, let me go ahead and zoom in on this. While you're seeing that today is up, yesterday was flat, day before was, so it hasn't had 3 days to establish a trend yet to be able to say that. Now you can change that to whatever number you want. We have it defaulted to 3 days, but that's a new feature. That's a broad market indicator. You know, we've also added TTM squeeze and, you know, a few other things as well. But this is one that I want to highlight because it is a broad market indicator that you bring into the stock to see how it collates to what's happening with the broad market. So that's some of the new features on the charting. And again, you know, if you look down the list here, you're going to see some new items on here. I know TTM squeeze is a new one. There's a couple other ones here that are also new as well. And there's also some slated here coming up that you'll be seeing really soon. So that's a little bit about on the charting capability that we have been adding over the past little bit. Next, I want to talk about is the screener. Now, this is interesting. The screener is, and let me start out new just to show you this. I want to start with a blank slate here. We keep adding stuff to the screener. And one of the things we did, just to let you know, we leveraged a lot of what we're doing in screener on the watch list. So what you're going to find is a lot of those fields that are on the watch list customization are going to be over here as well. Now, there's some that don't make sense for a screener, so they're not going to be. Additionally, there's also a couple on the screener that show up a little different on the watch. Just it's all about how the data is displayed, right? And that, but this is, you know, we've added some things to this, and I just want to highlight a couple of them that we've added. So one that we added, if I go down here to the option would be in fundamentals and options, which are kind of like the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Fundamentals, slow stuff, options, you know, fast and leverage stuff. So, but let me talk about the option side first real quick. We added some stats to this. So we have a liquidity indicator, which and an accelerator indicator, and a call put skew, and then average volumes as well. And the total options volume, call volume, put volume, total 5-day average volume, so on. So we have some additional ones here, and you're going to see how those come into play in just a moment, but I wanted to highlight that. And then the other thing that we did was we added some things around dividend, and we had some basics, does it have a dividend, and what's the dividend yield, and so on, and the dividend payout amount. We've added some other things to this that I think are of particular importance. And one of the best ways to highlight this, I think, is actually let's go build a screener real quick and show you this. So let's do that. I'm going to highlight a couple of things and we'll build it out. So number one, I'm going to look at the payout ratio, and so the payout. What's the payout ratio? What this is what percentage of a company's earnings is the company paying out in a dividend. Now, real fast, I just want to mention something real quick, because sometimes people glaze over when I start talking about dividend, because they're so into short-term trading with options and so on. Let me just I just want to set a foundation real quick. One of the things about dividend, dividends are not exciting like options are exciting. However, what you'll find is as you start working more and more with your trading and you start building up a portfolio, and it's like, hey, when you start out with the $10,000 portfolio, and I'm speaking to what I did, I don't even want to say how many years ago. I have to go get a cane or something if I do that. I started out with a $10,000 account, and that was the second time, because I started out with a $10,000 account and blew it out really quick because I had no idea what I was doing. Then I decided I needed to learn some things, and that's what I did, and it worked out. But it was all options, and it was mostly spreads, a lot of verticals, stuff like that, leveraging up, trying to do this stuff. Well, then you start getting up, you get from a 5-figure 10,000 to a 6-figure 100,000. You start to change a little bit on how you're going to do stuff. You're going to take a little more conservative approach on, you might still do some stuff aggressive, but you're going to take some of that and start getting more conservative. Then you get up to your, to 7 figures. And now all of a sudden a part of your portfolio is, I'd call it your wealth building part, not your trading part, and capital preservation and building up and all that's going to be more important. So over time, some of these things are going to change. Well, and by the way, one of the things that I'll just share with you that I happen to like in my wealth management side of this that still brings options into play is, how about this? Covered calls on solid stocks that pay good dividends. So now I'm double dipping, right? I'm getting my covered call income as well as my dividend income. So just take that as a concept here, as a way that you consider this, right? So I'm going to go my dividend payout. That is the percentage of earnings that the company is going to pay out. I'm going to go with the how frequent is the dividend paid out? And notice it says regular dividend frequency, because there could be an irregular. There's especially like insurance company. There's different types of companies that may pay out a quarterly dividend, but then they'll pay out an annual irregular dividend of an amount. So what we care about is the frequency of regular dividends. I care about the dividend yield, and the frequency and the payout amount. Then there's a couple other things I care about. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to bring up in my earnings stuff here. I care about when my next, how many days to the next earnings report, right? Because I want to make sure I don't do something that could put me in a compromised situation there. And then I'm going to go over to my liquidity side or my option side, and I'm going to care about liquidity. And again, you're going to know more about what that means in just a moment, but let me just share that with you. So I picked some specific things on here, and now I click that, and here is my those fields, right? So let's look at payout ratio. So there is this wide range of stuff here. Oh, and by the way, you can, there was one more. Hold on. I forgot one. I care about which index it's in. Let me add that to the list. All right. So that's all the way down here. Something else we also added the ability to drag these around to put them in the order you want, right? So I'm going to put my index up here at the top, and I only want to look at stocks that are part of the S&P 500 because I want to make sure I've got good quality companies. Okay. So that's S&P 500 right now is a little bit more than 500 stocks in it, by the way. It fluctuates a little bit here and there and up a little bit now. My payout ratio. Well, if it's got a payout ratio that's negative, that means it's losing money. That doesn't work. You can't keep paying out dividends on a stock that's losing money. So we want to get rid of that. And if it's paying out too much, they can't afford to keep doing that either, right? So what we're going to do is I want to see them paying out at least 25% of their profit. But if they start paying out more than 75% of their profit, that may have trouble with having money for continued operation, right? So that just took me down to 200. I want to look at either monthly or quarterly. I really don't care about annual, because that's not frequent enough, or semi-annual, that's not frequent enough. So that takes it down a little bit. Dividend yield, I want to make sure I've got at least 3%. I don't care about the upside of it. That can be whatever. I had dividend frequency twice here. This is the one I care about is regular dividend frequency. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Boom, get rid of that there. Dividend payout amount. This is something that I don't want to limit based on, but I want to know when I look at my watch list. You follow me? I'm not going to say, oh, well, if they pay out, I need them to pay out a certain dollar amount before I'm going to even consider it. I don't know that yet because it depends on the price of the stock and all that stuff. So I don't want this to limit it, but I want the information to show up on my list. So what I'm going to do here is turn this off. What that does is it's going to make it part of the data, but it is not going to limit what I am looking at based on that information. And quite honestly, days to earnings, kind of the same thing, right? So I'm going to take this up to 90 days because it may not change it because it does the range. I want to know how many days to earnings, but I'm not going to limit it because of that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So again, what I'm going to have here is it's going to show me everything there, but it'll tell me how many days. And then on my liquidity that you're not going to quite know yet, but I'm going to tell you it's going to matter, and I'll get into that. I'm going to go with 90. 80, I still have a lot on here. 90, I got 20 stocks now, right? So 20 stocks is going to show up. I hit the button here. By the way, if I like this, all I have to do is hit the save button, and I can I'm going to do div demo so I can get there quick. And then I can put any description I want down here and save it. And now that's going to be one that I can use as my quick hits to be able to get there. But let me run my search. And here are my 20 stocks that I care about. And just to let you know a little bit of how this is working out, right? So I have here my payout ratio. This is American Electric Power. By the way, utility company tends to pay out a high percentage, which is good, right? That's 68%. Shows you the range of where it is in the payout, right? It's quarterly dividend. It's 3.4%. And it pays out $3 a year, $3.30 a year, 83 cents each time it pays. And it's quarterly, and it's 44 days to the next earnings report on this date. And I've got a high liquidity, right? So right there's my information I want. I have these 20 stocks. Now, here's the really cool thing. I want to do a deeper analysis of these stocks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit my little multi-select button, just hit the top one here because it's going to highlight all of them for me. And I'm now going to create a new watch list called Div Look. And now I've created the new watch list. And now, instead of sending these over individually, I can go right over to my dashboard or charts or whatever. And now there's all those stocks. Isn't that cool to be able to take your list, you get it down. And by the way, just to show you this now that I've created that particular strainer, all I have to do, let me just go new to clear it out. So I have a blank thing here. I just go to my saved and div demo, bam, there it is. That's the list right there. Already worked out exactly how I want it. There's my 20 stocks, right?
Hey, Rance, that's super awesome. I love how you can just save those and then, just the workflow. I think we're learning a lot here. That's fantastic. I was wondering, can you explain real quick that options liquidity number?
Yes. Yep.
How does that specific number work?
Yes. So, so here's my list of stocks, and I start to research this. And I mentioned I want to do a covered call potential on this. So what I'm going to do right now is here's my American Electric, right? You can see the chart on this. Let's go take a look on the option side. So when I go to options now, there's a new behavior that wasn't there before. And that is that when you come into this, we now give you the ability to pick what expiration cycles you want. But we do more than just that. What that does is, I'll be honest, part of what happened there was if you try to bring up options on SPY or SPX, it was just taking forever to load. And who's going to look at every single option? Because we're loading the entire chain. So now you get to pick. Right. So I'm going to go look at this one for this particular example, or maybe this one. I'll look at both these. Right. So I can choose which cycles and hit OK, and it's going to load those up. But before I do that, I want to talk about this dashboard, because we added something here that's really helpful for understanding what's going on with the options on the stock before you get into it. And, one of the things here is we tell you the total open interest over the whole thing. We also then break that down by each individual cycle. So 57,000 total, 32,000 for the next expiration cycle in 10 days, right? So it shows you the volume and the average volume. So if you look at this, the average volume over the last 5 days has only been 787, but like yesterday, because it's previous days, because if you compare it to today, at the start of the day, it's not going to make sense, right? So we look at this a little broader spec. So, but it was, pretty strong volume. And the other thing here is we also talk about, this is all IV, but we do it visually too. So what this is the low IV of the last year, 16, 34 as the high IV. The current IV is 22, which is right here. And this little mark right here is the average, 22.74 versus 22.2. So this is the average IV, and this is the current IV. So if the current IV is lower than the average IV, it's going to be a green and the little arrow on the lower side of this. If it was higher, it would be a red bar, and it would be on the other side on the upper side of this. So that's a little bit of that. Then you come down to these three, and these three: liquidity, skew, and accelerator. Liquidity is we were talking about what to label this. Do you call it liquidity? Do you call it tradability? What do you call this? And we settled on liquidity, but here's what this is doing. It is looking at the volume of the different options, the open interest that's out there, and then it's also looking at the near at the money options for a couple different cycles and looking at the bid-ask spread. Because what happens sometimes if you have something that's low liquidity, you go to do the stock and, you've got a bid-ask spread that's like, $1 by $1.50, right? So you're going to buy it for $1.50 and you're going to sell it for $1, or, let's go a little bit higher price, $5 and, 4.25. You got a 75-cent bid-ask spread on a $5 option. What that is that requires so much movement of the stock to be able to get to break even. That it makes it really challenging. So this was something that came up consistently in talking about this and teaching options. And we talk about they would talk about liquidity, talk about the importance of making sure that you can get in and out. And then we still had people getting into trouble. And so we thought, hey, let's make this more obvious. So we have this liquidity thing. So let me just share with you: is in the green arc, you're generally okay. If it's in the lower part of the green arc and in a yellow arc, you really want to look at bid-ask spreads. And the reason I say lower part of the green arc, this happens to only have monthly options. And I just happen to pick that because I didn't put that as one of my limiters, right? But the ability to know that, so what will happen sometimes is if you have kind of a lower part of the green or into the yellow, you might have an okay option if it's monthly, but the weeklies, the bid-ask spreads are too wide. Right. So, which means it could be tradable, right? So it's in the green or top part of yellow, right? So it could be tradable, but you may want to consider doing the monthly instead of the weekly because the bid-ask spreads on the weekly are too much. If it starts to get in the lower part of the yellow or into the red, we call those the Roach Motel trades, right? Those are the ones you can check in, but you can't check out. You get into it and it's just really difficult to be able to get out at a profit. And it has to move so much to overcome the bid-ask spread that's an important factor of this. So what we do here is we now show you this liquidity on this side here. Skew is, are calls traded more or puts traded more? So the right side here is calls, the left side here is puts. So they're kind of bullish on this side, bearish on that side. And so straight up and down would be even. But what we did was we said, hey, there's another factor here. So anyways, that was liquidity. That's what that mark was. But there's two other ones here that are really good to look at. Skew. So certain stocks are always going to, like Tesla, more puts traded than calls all the time, right? In this particular case, more calls traded than puts all the time, right? On average. So what we've done here is we've said, okay, here's the average right here, this black mark. Straight up and down would be even calls and puts. But on average, there are a little bit more calls traded than puts. But right now, it's skewed way over here. There's a lot more calls traded than puts. And then the accelerator is, how important is this information? Basically, the accelerator, so you can have a time where you're coming into an earnings report, for example, where you might see a little bit of a skew, but sometimes what happens is you come into an earnings report is things get quiet in anticipation, like what's going to happen, and then people jump on it afterwards. Or sometimes there's a lot of activity before the earnings report, but that matters, right? So if it gets quiet, in other words, my volume, my current volume is low compared to the average, the accelerator would be down on the left-hand side here in the lighter area. When it's stronger, it's over here. In this case, it's, 5,700 over, 700. So it's really strong, and there's a real strong skew to the side. So that's a pretty bullish indication for us on this, right? So that's a little bit of the dashboard as a whole, but I mentioned liquidity, but I gave the fuller picture of it. And then down here, we have some additional information on this about the put call ratio that's going on. In fact, I can tell you right now that the month, you can see it here by the put call ratio, the month with the highest calls to puts is that February cycle. So we'll look at that in just a second. And then it also shows the IV over all this, open interest, all this. And then we also have the standard deviation. So this is first the SD1, first standard deviation. So there is a 66% chance the stock will stay within a $3.40 range between now and the January 20th expiration, and between a $7 range. So as you're creating, and actually, if I click on this now, let me load the chain. So as you're looking at positions, you may want to consider something here. Like, for example, let's say I'm doing a bull call spread, for example, and this is $3.41. Well, if I'm doing the 97, it wouldn't make sense to go to the 110, right? It's like, that's too, there's no way it's going to move that much in that period of time, right? Or not no way, but statistically very, very, very slim odds it would do that. So I might want to bring it in a little bit closer to what's realistic for the standard deviation move that could happen, right? So there's a lot of stuff there. Great news is, if you don't follow all that stuff, ignore it. Other than that liquidity is important. Don't be careful trading options that are in low liquidity. It's going to bite you. But then I've got my list here, right? And you'll notice now that if you look at this, I've only got a 10-cent bid-ask spread on this. I got a 15-cent on this side for that, but they're reasonable numbers compared to something that was a low liquidity, right? So now I have this. The ability to start going down through and looking at this. And if I go back to my dashboard for just a second and look at the dividend, don't forget, this is paying out 83 cents on top of paying out a dividend yield of 3.5%, 3.44%, paying out 68% of their profit in this. So then when I come into this and I look at, hey, what would happen if I did a covered call here? Let me go buy 100 shares of the stock. And now, mind you, by the way, this is covered return. That's one of the custom fields we have, right? So what would my return be? So if I did the 97.50, it's right there. It's 50 cents out of the money. I'm going to pick up in 10 days 1%. So it may not be, you have to make the decision on whether it's worth it on that. This is utility, maybe not. I might want to look at, something else on here. Here we have Best Buy, which is kind of flat right now. Let me just go look really quick just to show you this. And here I have my weekly and my monthly. I tend to, on my shorter term ones, stay with the monthly. I don't know. I just tend to. And then further out, I might go to weeklies. But by the way, look at this weekly. The volume's only 48. This one's 4,000, right? So you might find that the bid-ask spread on that's not quite as attractive as the so look at this. That's not bad. It's not bad. 25 cents versus if I look at it here, it's only 11 cents, right? The weekly versus the monthly. But again, I have the ability to kind of work with this and decide what I want. So I want to pick up a couple of points on this. So we could do this, do the 100 shares. There's my covered call going on over here. And on top of that, I've got my dividend at, 4.25% dividend. That's for the year. In this particular case, on the option side of this, I'm going to be able to make another 2% in the period of 10 days, right? So you stack that up, and over some time, that starts to really mean something there, right? So that's a little bit about the not only the liquidity thing, but the whole kind of options dashboard part of this that we have added to the mix. So, David, I don't know if there's anything there you want to highlight or mention as we get into before I get into the next part of this.
No, I've got nothing else to add. I've just been loving watching it. So
yeah, this is one of those that we saw just numerous times where people were getting into those Roach Motel trades, right? And we'd see those in support tickets about how do I get out of this? And the reality is that you want to watch that. So we came up with our own algorithm for the liquidity, and we make it available not only here on this, but we actually just very recently also brought that into the screener so that it could be one of the rules on that. Now, just to let you know, because there is some information here in the, let me go back over to the options page here. When this comes up, there's a little question mark here. This will open the help center that describes this in even more in depth. But if you look at this, I'm just going to tell you that if you're doing a scan on it and you want good liquidity, I would probably go to this is the 70 percentile mark. The yellow to green is at the 70 percentile mark, just so you know. So I usually am going, for good liquidity, I'm usually going, 85 or 90. And if you notice what I did here in my screener was I actually started out with on my liquidity, I put in 80. And when I put in 80, I saw 46 stocks. Well, let me go to 90. And, I got down to my 20, and I just decided to use that as my limiter, and then bam, do that. And, and you've got exactly what you need there. And so, one of them I saw here was Citi. Now there's one thing about Citi that I want to mention. It's coming out with earnings in 3 days. So I might want to wait until after earnings to do that. But if I look at this, good liquidity on it. And if I wanted to look at something let's look at these two really quick. And I'm looking at the money. That's, by the way, 10 days for the at the money option. It's still 22 cents out of the money. But I'm picking up in 10 days, 2.64% on just the covered call in 10 days. Right. And so if I wanted to go out to the 38 days from now and do the same thing, it's, 3.75% in 38 days, not bad. But if I can make 3.75% in 38 days, or I can make, 2.64% in, sorry, my mouse moving around here. Or I can make I clicked my mouse. I have a mouse thing for capturing, and it was kicking into play here. But anyway, so you see this 10 days out, I'm at 2.64% 10 days versus 3% for 3 times as long. Why do the 10 days and do it again, right? So they have that going on. Plus then you also have the potential of capturing the dividend, which is, north of 4% annually, right? So that's just, I'm going a little bit in that specific trade thing I was talking about, covered calls on good solid. That's why I chose S&P 500 that have a good liquidity and all that. So, we did all that. I'm not saying you have to do this trade. I'm just sharing you. This is one I kind of like. And that's a lot of the parameters I'm going to be looking at on those type of things. Right. So anyway, so that's a little bit on those things. The one other thing I do want to mention here that when it comes to the calendar, that was something else that just to mention this, that we have now added to the calendar splits. So for example, here we have PCAR coming up for a 3-for-2 split on Friday. Right. So we have that. And you can also see them in the past. I go back here to where one was, right. There was a split here on November 30th for TECH and, here for Copart. So splits are now on the calendar as well. And then we also added it to the, so let me go to Amazon here for a second to show this. If I go over here to the split tab, you'll see the most recent split. And if you click on this, you'll see the whole split history. So you can see all the split history all the way back to 87 for Amazon. But the most recent one is going to be showing here, including if that most recent one is a future one. Okay. So a little bit about that. And then the only other thing I want to add to this, and to do this, I need to go to my demo or my dev account. And let me go to this here and look at my position thing. All right. So let's say I were to go look at Apple for a second. Let me look at, I'm going to go to Walmart for a second. I want something with just stock in it for right now, no options trade. So here's Walmart. I look at this. Of course, when you look at this, let me go to my, not 1 month. Let me go to a 1 year daily, right? So this is my cost basis for the stock, right? Because I own that, right? This is my stage trade. We're just going to ignore that for now because we talked about stage before, but this is my current position. But if I didn't look at this page or whatever, and I went, oh, I'm going to go buy some more Walmart. And I click on this, what's going to happen is we've added some smartness to the ticket. What's happened is when you get a lot of positions on, you may forget you have a position on. Now, if you go to the chart, you should see it. So that helps. But what happened here was I hit the buy button and it says, hey, hold on, current position. You have an existing position found on this symbol. You currently own 200 shares with a cost basis of $33. You spent 26 grand on that. It's currently worth $144 or 128. So you've got a little bit of a profit on this. Do you want to close this position or do you want to add to it? So a little bit of smarts to the ticket. This is by account. So it's whichever account you happen to be in. If I say, oh, I want to add to the position, I can go click the add and right there it is. It's going to default to the same trade you did last time. I'm going to change that to 100 and bam, I can go do the trade. Or I could go hit the close button and it would put in a closing trade. So that's all. So we've built that in, some smarts in that area. And again, part of the reason for it was as you start to get a decent sized portfolio, and you run a screener or a scan or something, or you're watching CNBC or, oh, this is cool. Let me go buy some of this. And you forgot you already have it. We bring that to your attention. Okay. So that's a little bit about, kind of on the trade management side where we added a little bit on that smart ticket just to let you know. And then of course you can just go, yeah, I want to keep doing more and you can do whatever, on it, but we at least let you know what's going on there. Okay. So I ran a little bit over on time here. I know I talked to you, David, about, being a little flex on that because we have a lot to go over, but I wanted to share with you guys these new capabilities within the platform. And, that's just really, that's this past, year, except that we had this foundational thing happen in the beginning of the year. So it's really been about this past 6-8 months that we've added all these. And we have we have a lot on the plate coming up too. We have some great stuff coming up as well. And so we really look forward to sharing that with you as well. So.
Well, Rance, we really do appreciate all the work you guys have put into this. Guys, as you can see, Rance, Steve, and Lori, their whole team, they've been busy. They've been busy this year. So we appreciate that. We appreciate their work in helping continue to add features and updating the platform as well. Guys, if you don't have Charts by TRADEway yet and you liked what you saw today, you can still get it. I just threw in the chat there the link, chartsbytradeway.com. You can go there. There's a ton of information. You can decide between basic and elite, whichever one you'd like. So go ahead and check that out. And, guys, like what Rance alluded to, we're not done yet. We've got a lot more features, a lot more updates that, have already been in development and we're working on putting together. It's on my calendar this afternoon to put together a more condensed list to send to Rance and his team of more updates and features that we're wanting to see. So, I was talking with Rance a few weeks ago and it appears that 2023 might even be bigger than 2022 as far as the updates that are coming out.
It will be
because there's more time available to knock some of those things out, and they've already done a lot of huge things for us. And so I'm excited, and of course I'm privileged to be able to be in that seat where I know what we have. I know what we received in the past, and I can see what's coming in the future, and that's just a lot of fun for me as well. So, guys, it's not over. We're going to continue to improve, continue to add, and continue to build into it. So,
I have one little request I'd like to put out there, David, just so that we can capture this in the chat. If there was a particular feature that I covered today that you thought was, like your favorite that you thought was really cool, do me a favor, just hit that down there in the chat and let us know. It just gives us some great feedback on what we put in here, what we think is important to you, but sometimes those are different than what might be on your priorities. So we'd love to just hear that as well. And I see several questions about some things you want to see, and I can tell you that quite a few things that you guys have mentioned on this are on the way. And and there's a couple items I saw there that I thought would be great for us to discuss and see about. But that's we'd love your feedback on this as well. And so letting us know that would be letting us know what you liked of what you saw today would be great in the chat. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
that's all I had for today. So thanks, guys.
John loves the liquidity score feature. David loves oh my goodness, it's going quickly now. Dave loves the watch list management. Sydney loves the screener. Chrissy loves the watch list. Doris, the settings on the screener. And it's just going on and on and on. A lot on the screener and a lot on the watch list.
Yeah,
so
I'll tell you what, the one thing here I got, Tom mentions here is watch list management's outstanding. This will help me clean up my lists. And I got to tell you, that was the thing that I didn't think about until we implemented this. And then realizing that all I have to do on any list that I'm on is just, like click that X. Okay, I don't like this one now. Bam, click that X. It's gone. Done off that list, right? And the ability to whittle that list down and manage it and help to clean them up. So I appreciate that feedback for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic, guys. And that really helps with, I think, the workflow of, you can start out on the weekend with a bigger watch list, like you go to the David Mitchell options watch list, for example. You start out there and then you put that in a personal watch list, and then you can just whittle that down and just get rid of it. And then now you've got your favorite 10 or 12 you might be looking at that week. So you're not having to sift through, dozens or hundreds of tickers each day. It just helps the workflow so much. And so we really appreciate all that.
And by the way, I think if you guys know about this, since we already talked about it, if you have a watch list, like here's David Mitchell's options list, that I could just simply do the multi-select, hit that, and then go put that all into my own options watch list, and then I can edit through it and get rid of what I don't want, and all that stuff, and whittle it right down to the short list. That's one of those capabilities now with with this that makes it really handy. So just since you mentioned David Mitchell's option stuff, I thought that was a kind of a good thing to mention here.
Fantastic. Well, guys, I know there's several questions that are just popped in lately here. If there's something that we have not answered that you do want answered, feel free to send an email to support@tradeway.com.